Hello everyone and welcome back to Little Quilter. Today we are going to be working on month 5 of the block of the month, the produce section by Elizabeth Hartman. We're going to be working on these beautiful grapefruits right here, and we've got a lot of gorgeous peach orange fabric to be working with, and I'm so excited to get this block done. I know that you guys, I have not put out videos lately, and that's just because all of the holiday season and spending time with family, everything, it just put me behind in getting any sewing, any quilting done, and I just think it's important to do that for sure. With my little one, I do have some projects still going, so I definitely have a couple of quilts that I'm actually working on the long arm with. One of those is free motion, and of course we're working on the produce section, and I definitely have in the works the kite in a square quilt. I want to get that up and going again because I've got to make the back for it so that I can get it on the long arm quilting machine, and I think that's going to be the next quilt that I'm going to do. So that was just a little bit of an update there. Let's jump into this produce section by Elizabeth Hartman, block of the month, month 5. Here we go. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and look at the fabric that we have got today to do this. So we're going to go ahead and lay it out. There we go. So we've got a lot of strips, we've got some fabric here, our orange pieces. Now I will admit that we have a bit of an issue. As I was cutting, I was not quite paying attention, and as you can see, I am a 1/4 inch short on one of these. So we'll have to see. Hopefully I can remedy this. I actually don't have any more of this fabric, so the way that I cut this, I used a lot of it, and then I accidentally also thought I needed more of these strips because I stopped and came back to cutting, and so when I was reading it, I thought I hadn't actually cut these strips, so I cut some more of these 1-inch strips, which ended up, if I had just messed this one up, I probably would have been able to fix it if I had not cut some more of these strips. So we'll see how it goes. I still have the strips, so I don't know. We'll just have to see what this looks like. I'm not sure what's going to happen here, and hopefully we can remedy it. But we've got all of our pieces, so let's get to putting this together. Okay, I just quickly wanted to mention this. I've done a bunch of these already, but I was a bit confused by these instructions at the beginning because it says to trim 1/2 inch from the seam, and this was originally after, whenever I read this after I'd done the sewing here before I had pressed, and I was like, how am I going to do that? And sillily enough, I realized 1/2 inch from this seam. So you want to go ahead and iron your piece open, and then you want to measure your 1/2 inch mark being along that seam line right there, and that's where we want to go ahead and cut that piece. So I've done all of the rest of them so that we end up with basically 1/2 inch right here, and this is how we're going to then connect these other 2 pieces together. But for some reason that kind of messed with my brain when I was first reading it, but it's not actually that difficult. Okay, so then we're basically going to go ahead and sew this piece together. I want to keep this lined up, so the way that I'm going to do this is go ahead and match them and then just kind of slide it on down here so that we hopefully keep them in line. And that's the important part here, is that we want to make sure that our centers are matching so that when we go to iron this open, we don't have a wonky block here. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the rest of these just like this down the middle, and we will have part of this grapefruit done. Okay, before we move on to the next part, I just thought that this layout looked really, really cool. And so I did clean these up. In her directions, she didn't have you doing the whole border like I did. She just had you cutting the edges off here, but mine were not perfect, so I had to clean them up. Now the next step is to put in the line down the center, but you have this pinwheel basically effect here, and then what we'll do is put one down the center with it. But what I think is, isn't this layout really, really cool? I just think that looks so cool. And I really kind of want to do this maybe with some of that Adidas Sitar laundry basket fabrics, and not putting in a line down the center, but just doing this layout. And then you would end up with this sort of like grid pattern from this very thin line. And it would be kind of a tedious, but not at the same time. Like cutting all of these and squaring them up would be a little bit tedious, but the actual like cutting the fabric and everything would go pretty fast because this was made fairly simply. So this is definitely an idea that I want to look into, and you could make it really super scrappy with different center lines here, because obviously she has a lot of neutrals. So just a thought, in the middle of all of this, I think that would look really, really cool. Okay, so the next part is doing this center line and doing basically exactly the same thing that I have already done. Okay, we finally made it to this part of the block right here. It's been quite the sewing here. A lot of sewing and cutting with this block. So it's definitely been one of the more intricate blocks that we've done with the produce section quilt, but it's really, really fun and really cool. I'm very, very pleased with my piecing here. I think I only had one that was just a smidge off in that center piece. I still think it would be really pretty, so take out the center line and the border here, and just doing those blocks with just this little piece running through here. I think that would look really, really cool in a quilt. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. The only thing I can't think of is what colors, you know, would you do it in like a gradient? Would you just do it like randomly? I'm not sure. So that's something. Tell me what you guys think on that. What would you do if you were going to do that type of quilt? So now we just have to put the circle part on it here, and then we've got to do the rind that goes around it. So I'm going to jump into doing that so we can get this block done, and I can get this video out to you guys. Let's do it. Okay, everybody, so I knew I had a bit of a mess up, and I was hoping that I would be able to fix it, but I've been looking at this, and did you hear my dog back there? He just did the biggest sigh. That's how I feel too. I don't think I'm going to be able to fix this, so I may have to do all of the blocks that I can to finish them, and then hold and see if I get any more of this fabric, because I also used all of the fabric for this, so there is no fabric to grab as a backup for this, and this is the first time that we've used this fabric. So let me show you. Okay, so here is what I've got, and as you can see, I accidentally cut this 1/4 of an inch. Oh, just 1/4 of an inch on one side short. But because I am supposed to do this as a diagonal seam to end up with this beautiful type design, I don't know that I can really do that because my diagonal seam is still going to be 1/4 of an inch short on this side. So I'm definitely going to, I didn't cut all of them like that, thank goodness. So I'm just going to set aside all of the ones that aren't appropriately sized and see how many of these I can get done without them. I think it'll at least be one block that's going to be left, and then I'll see what happens. And my hope is that I'll get some of this more, it's really kind of like, it's coming across a lot more orangey, I feel like, but it's more of a peach color. So I'll hope that I get some more of this to use as extra, because I did end up using all of the fabric for this. So okay, guys, I thought I was in some real trouble because I did finish this, and I have 3 of these lovely blocks right here, but as I was telling you guys earlier, I had messed up on this block right here and had cut it 1/4 of an inch. Let me show you, just 1/4 of an inch too small, this part. And so I was thinking of what can I do to fix this, and this is what I thought of. Let me show you. All right, so this right here is one of the blocks that I have completed as I was supposed to, and I think they turned out really, really nicely. This is the block right here that I'm working on, and as you can see here, I have this corner piece, which, you know what, I think looks pretty darn close to this corner piece. The difference is this. Instead of using that square, I had some strips of fabric, and if you look here, I'll flip it over and show you. So what I did here, and let me get rid of this. Okay, so what I did here was sew this strip of fabric on first, then I sewed my square onto that, lining up my diagonal lines with each end of it so that I would keep that same size, because I realized when I was sewing these, I wasn't changing the size of the piece, I was just changing the color strips as we went. So knowing that as long as I lined my corners up on the edges and sewed them, then this should be fine. Now I've got to cut the rest of this off. I didn't want to cut anything really at the beginning because honestly I was afraid that it wouldn't work out. So now I've got to go back. I can cut this off and then I can cut this piece off right here, and then it'll look, I would say for the most part, just like this piece here. Yeah, I think it'll look fine. So let me show you here now, just as an example. I'm going to take this piece. I realized that I basically want about this 1/4 inch line right here. So lining it up so that it's approximately 1/4 of an inch, almost like you're doing the paper piecing. So I'm going to sew down this line here so that whenever I flip it, I've got that beautiful 1/4 inch right there. But I also want to make sure that when I flip it, I've got enough space as well over here to do 1/4 of an inch and still have enough room, okay? So it is a little bit tricky. It's not as easy the other way, but this is a way that I can use the scraps that I have here cut to actually be able to finish this. So let me see if I can get the rest of these done. Okay, you guys, we did it. So this is actually not the one that I finished. It is this one. So this is the block that was the mess up block that I used the strips to do the piecing here. And this is one of the ones that I did the correct way. So I think all in all, that was pretty much a success, and I was able to save this block even though I messed up cutting the pieces. So pretty proud of myself on that one because I definitely thought I was just gonna have to wait and hope that they sent me more fabric and then hope that I didn't have to buy more fabric. So I'm pretty proud of that. Now, as always, I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. This is not the end of this month's block of the month for the produce section. There is another one, but I'm going to just go ahead and wrap this video up so that I can get it out to you guys, and then we'll work on next week's video for you guys of the produce section. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed it, and as always, I will link everything down below. I apologize in the delay in getting these videos out to you guys. It's just, 'tis the season, and I have had a lot of things going on, so I'm hoping to try and get back into the normal routine and get some videos out to you guys. As always, hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.